Today's really going to be a fun day because we're going to start planking the bottom today, and there's just all kinds of things to say about this, and I'm sure that we're going to learn a lot as we go along here. One of the first things I can say is that the first plank's going on a kind of fan down there a little bit. I've got the grain running over the transom, across the transom, rather than following the transom, just to kind of bind it together a little bit more. Then I'm going to taper 2 or 3 planks, and then planking it pretty much straight across. Not every plank is the same width, and not every plank is finished on the edge. Some of them have got a little, curvature to them, so you have to joint them with a jointer. I've heard people refer to this as Ashcroft style planking. Now that would be mostly if it was 1 layer. This is going to be 2 layers of it, but it's cross-planked is what it is. And it makes it kind of easier because you don't have to deal with a big long plank. They're very short, they're easy to fit, and basically what you're going to do is fit one against the other individually. You make that fit. Most of the time you can do that with a jointer. You just run it over a jointer and it fits. You do the other side, get the 2 sides nice and straight. That's your first step. Then you just scribe it to the keel and cut that end off and fit it a little bit with a plane. Once you've got that accomplished, you hang it over. So this is like the hang over and cut off, but really what we've got here is hang over, mark, flip it over and cut it off. But cut it off a little bit longer than you might want it, and make sure that you don't get the pencil up underneath it, because you will cut it too short if you make that mistake. So basically, it's just one right after another, fit, 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 get them in place. We're using 3/8 inch Atlantic white cedar planking, and not all the planking is exactly the same width. That wouldn't make any sense because I didn't obtain it all the same width, and it's all edge grain, quarter sawn. I don't want to cut it all the same width and sacrifice all that material. There really is no necessity to have it the same width. It goes down exactly the same. It's going to be glassed in between, and it's going to have a layer glued on top of it. So there's not going to be any cupping or anything like that. We're going to put them down about 10 planks at a time, glue them down, mix enough glue for that. And the grain selection is exactly right, because it doesn't cup. It doesn't have a tendency to cup like it would if it was slab sawn material. This is select material right here, especially for the twisting process, and especially for up forward, where the twist would be impossible with much thicker or different types of material, hardwoods and different things. You'd have to make all different kinds of steps in order to get that to happen up forward. This, I think, comparatively to any other method that's been done, whether it was Chesapeake Bay dead rise boats or otherwise, is comparatively more simple and easier and more effective. You guys have been watching us do quite a bit of planking here, actually, and we've got a lot on. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got 6 more planks cut and fit up to the keel, and I'm just about ready to glue these things on, but we've got a few things to do first. We're going to clean it up some, and basically this is a nice area. It's starting to get quite a bit more twist right in this area, and that's going to develop quite a bit more as you get going. The pieces are still cooperating kind of nicely, but you can see they need to be trained down like that. So, we don't want to get too carried away and do like 20 of them at a time. We're going to kind of reduce it down, maybe doing 6 or 8 at a time. We had been doing 10, so we've got 6 of them right here to go. Let me explain a little something to you about this area right here. There's kind of a transition right here of what's going to go on as far as the planking goes. Right in this area right here, you can see that the side plank is sticking up past the chine and this flat area that I'm fastening the planking down to. So what's going to happen is I'm going to fasten all this down, get it in place perfect, then I'm going to place this piece on top, and I'm going to cut this piece away right here. I'm going to make a mark on there and cut all of this off right here so this piece hangs out. And it is a transition because from here aft I'm going to have 2 layers of planking of the side, the bottom planking hanging over the side, and then from here forward for a little ways I'm going to have only 1 layer of planking hanging over the side, and from here forward basically it's going to look like this. You're going to have planks stuck right in there like that, and then I'm going to re-rabbet the side plank or cut these on a little bit of an angle, and then this piece is going to come in just like that. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a hard corner. You're not going to be showing any end grain on the bottom planking from here forward. You're going to be showing a little bit in here, and then it's like a double transition right in here. It's a little bit tricky to understand, but I think you'll understand it as it starts going together. As I get up into this area, both transitions that I spoke about are going to be made. We're going to have one layer of planking butted into the side planking like that, and then I'm either going to re-rabbet for the next layer, or I'm going to cut the next layer on an angle. I've got both options still open to me, and that plank's going to look like that. So in this area forward, you're going to be seeing no end grain of the bottom planking hanging over the side. It's going to come to a corner just like that and all the way forward. Whether I rabbet that side planking for the bottom planking or I cut the bottom planking on the angle, it's the same thing. You're just going to end up looking just like that. In this area, you're going to have one layer of bottom planking, this second layer hanging over the side, and then up aft here, you're going to have two layers of bottom planking hanging over the side planking. So as we get further forward, it's going to be the same thing. Both layers of bottom planking are going to abut the side planking. So back aft, you got two layers hanging over the side planking, and up forward, you got two layers of bottom planking abutting the side planking. You know, it transitions from double overhang to double abutment up forward. Plywood V-bottoms is where I kind of stole this idea from a long time ago, was how did you get the bottom, you know, to be kind of like a skiff back aft, where the bottom was on one corner of the chine and the side was on the other, but then up forward, they're both on the same side. So I talked about it before, but that's one of the complications in a boat like this right here. And you know, the other thing I can say about it, all of it is that even up forward here, we've still got quite a glue surface right here, you know, and there's no fastenings holding the sole down to the chine. There's none. They were temporary. It's just glued down there. But basically, when you glue this plank onto that all becomes one right there, and one with the chine and one with the side plank and everything. There's an awful lot of business going on there. So, you know, we don't expect it to be coming loose at all. And we're just using these very light fastenings, but it's going to be cover screwed afterwards through both layers with bronze screws. So, you know, I've been entertaining actually using duplex nails, like everybody would love to see me use, to put the second layer of planking over this, so that I don't have to use a drill and a screwdriver and all these different things. I would just use a hammer and nails and tack them down. And once they're, you know, once the glue is dry, I'll pull the nails out and use the same exact holes, re-drill those holes and put screws in those holes. So, you know, we're still entertaining a few of those little fine points, but we're getting there. And I just have to make sure that up forward here, that I drill some limber holes. I'm going to drill a limber hole across the keelson right here and one in here before I cover it up with planking, and one through this runner right here as well. So a few things to do, but we're going at it. Now I've got one left here to cut to length, and I'm going to push it right up nice and tight against the others, right up tight against the keel, make sure it's right in place. Then I'm going to push it down nice and tight, because when I put my pencil under it, I don't want it reaching up past that corner to draw the line. I want one nice line like that. Now, if I let it rise up and I put my pencil line in there, it would come out like this, and I think you're going to see it's going to come out way in the wrong spot like that. This is where it's supposed to be. That's where it could be if you're not careful right there. And if you cut it there, you'd make it too short. Now, I'm even going to cut it longer than this because I'm a little paranoid. I don't want to cut it too short. Let me show you one quick thing up here before I cover it up with bottom planking. This is the intermediate longitudinal interior stringer that I had put on, and it's in yellow pine, and then I deducted an inch off the top of it, and I've put 2 half-inch laminates of white oak on the top. It was quite easy to do because it weren't too stiff and they bent right in really nice. And then I added a 3rd one underneath that. So it's very rigid up in here, very, very rigid. And I scarfed them into this as you go back aft a little bit, so there's no immediate transitions just like this one. But this is really, really rugged. And it cuts the span of the bottom planking in half all the way forward, same as back aft. You know, I just didn't want to have big long spans in the bottom planking, and this takes care of that. What do you think? A little lower, maybe. Just tell me. Now, once we've cut a good section of planking, 10 or so, we're going to lift those up and put them back aft upside down and paint the inside of them with thin epoxy, the smooth side. Because one side's resawn, it's got the bandsaw cut on it, and the other side is smooth. So we're going to put that smooth side inside, paint that out first, and I'm going to be applying thickened epoxy to the barren surfaces, because, you know, they're a harder wood. They don't really have to be primed. I'll just take the same epoxy but thicken it up and spread it in front of me as I'm laying them down. It's just going to be a fun thing here. One of the things that's really important here to us, or to me, is to stay out of the glue. I don't want to get involved with the glue too much. You know, I use it, but I don't get it all over me or all over my clothes or all over anything, because it's just such a waste of time. And I do enjoy using it because I can control it pretty well. And then it's just a matter of holding them right in place very carefully and nailing them down with these little ring nails. They're just 1-inch long ring nails, and it does the job. It holds the planking down on the glue real nice and tight. And you actually have the opportunity to come around and set the nails later, which tightens the thing up a little bit more. The impact as well as the holding power of the nail helps you out. You know, you address it again after you've nailed it down. And if there's a struggle involved, you're not going to make any headway, and you're not going to have any fun, and you'll be frustrated. So I don't work frustrated. I try to work it out before I get going, and this is working out really well. So this is our first transition in planking right in here, where these planks overlap the side planking, and this one is going to as well, but from there on, it's not going to. So we're going to put this in place and just take a pencil, make a little mark right here, just like that. And then I'm going to take it out of the way and hand me a handsaw. Now I'm going to take a chisel and just take these pieces right off here. And I might touch it up with a rabbit plane, or maybe not, because it's going to come out pretty nice. It'd hurt for me to have a rabbit plane, I guess, and I'll just take a little swipe right in here. Like so. I'm going to actually turn this plane around and get that corner a little better. Being pretty fussy, but that's what it takes to do a good job right there. So now we are ready to put this piece in place. Nope, we're going to put it in place and mark it, length of it. So I'm going to put it in place and set it right down in its little slot here, and take a pencil and do the same thing I've been doing on all the rest of them. I'm going to make sure it's in position at the top, nice and tight. Just like that, hold it down nice and tight like the rest of them. Make my line underneath. take it off and saw it. I took a router and I just chamfered the very edge of the hole so it wouldn't be really scratchy or hold up things. You know, it'd be a little bit more limber. Now that limber hole really is just to let the minute amount of water that's left in the bilge, you know, after it drains from one side to the other, and your electric pump is working. So it pretty much makes it so that you can pump both sides of the boat out with one pump on one side. And this bottom is going to be a composite bottom. It's all going to be one layer when we're done because it's going to be so glued up with fiberglass in between it and over it that there's no consideration of seams of any sort. What we're doing here is creating a shape with the first layer, and then we're creating a chord section over the top of it with a layer of wood and glass on both sides of it. It's going to be stiff. This is the most twisted part of the boat right here in the planking. Right up forward here where the keel meets the stem. It's got quite a twist in it really, so I'm using narrower planking because it does go down easier, because one diagonal across that plank when you're twisting it is actually stretched. So the narrower the plank, kind of the easier it sets. This section of the boat up forward has the most twisted bottom planking in the whole thing. And it's twisted pretty radically really. You have to be pretty careful putting it on there. You didn't want to use really wide planks up here. I've been saving the narrower stuff because it does twist down quite a bit easier. And we've developed a little method right here of twisting it right in place. This is the first method that I came up with really, and it's just a rope on that first stringer right there and a lever and a block, and we pry it right down nice and tight. And what I've developed is just a pry here. You know, I've got it tied off to that intermediate stringer on one end, and we've got a block on the plank we're trying to fasten down on the other end, and he's just prying it down. Caleb's got it in there and prying it right down, and we're kind of having to cooperate on it because you have to move the block around a little bit and get it exactly right before we nail it. Like I say, it can't be up at all. It has to be right in place, and this technique is just working. You know, for the first time out, or the first technique that we're going to use, it works great. So we've got a number of them to put around that curve right there. We're going to use this technique as we go forward, but eventually we can probably put that pry away because they'll get a little bit easier as you go forward. There won't be as much twist in them at all, and I can actually put a little bit wider ones on as I get forward. So it's just a matter of keeping going, and what we're doing is getting one plank done at a time and then fitting the next one and trying to keep the glue out of the way. And when I'm fitting it, we don't even paint the back of it yet because I'm grabbing it halfway between the chine and the stringer every time I pick it up and move it or otherwise. I don't want any glue on my glove or any glue on anything. So every little bit of the procedure right here has to be thought out. Otherwise you just keep making a mess in front of yourself. So, you know, we've had to develop this, and I'm sure even this little procedure will change a little bit as we're going along, but it's working great. It's actually working great, and we're getting the job done. You know, I can't wait to step down off the stage and see exactly what it looks like because I know it's starting to look fantastic. I just know it. It's just going to be satisfying to see this thing and step down off the stage and take a peek at it because I haven't really even done that. And wow, look at it. It just looks fantastic to me. I can't wait to smooth it up a little bit. I'm going to plane it later on and sand it a little bit and just get it looking proper, you know. One side at a time was great too because it didn't influence, the planking didn't influence the keel at all to one side or the other, and I didn't have to run around and around and around the boat. I stayed in one position when I was planking it really, you know, whether I was spreading glue or fitting the planks or nailing them down or whatever else. I just didn't have to cover a lot of ground. It made it very easy, and it's a simple thing to do. Well, there it is, the first layer on the port side, and it really came out nice. You know, it's just nailed down with these very light anchor fast nails. We're going to put another layer over it and screw right through the both of them, so it'll be fastened on, and believe me, it's glued on, and I don't think you'd have to have any fastenings, but we're going to have them, and we're pretty pleased. I mean, the shape of the boat is really coming together now. I think you can really get the idea of what we imagined when we started doing this project.